Hey there, internet friends, and welcome to Season 2 of That Ultimate Video Game List Show. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey from ThatNerdySite.com, and this is the show where each season, me and a panel of friends try to create the ultimate top 20 video game list with two main bits of criteria. Only one game per franchise, and only one game per console. Joining me on Season 2, we have a whole bunch of new people. We have Scott White from Irrational Passions and DualShockers. How you doing, Scott?
Hey Trevor, thanks for having me on. Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here.
We have podcast aficionado Brandon Gann. You've probably heard him submit questions on any number of other podcasts. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing all right. How about you, gentlemen?
Doing good. We have Jonathan Xyger Landeros from newly announced from My Xbox and Me. How you doing, Xyger?
I'm doing great. Hi, that's me. Hi, everyone.
Yay. And rounding out the squad this time around, we have a fourth panelist, because I am not participating. We have Aaron Moeller from the Scootcast. How you doing, Aaron?
What up? It's going well. How are you guys?
All right. Doing good. So before we dive into the list, we have a quick little bit of housekeeping. If you like what you hear, please always remember to like, rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff everywhere you can. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can always support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. So if you are new to the show, the way the show works is like this. For the next few weeks, these four panelists will be taking turns adding games to the list, with each week centering around one round of 4 submissions. Once a game is added to the list, all other games on that console or in that franchise are out of the running for the future. The example I like to give is if somebody submits Ocarina of Time for the N64, it means no other N64 games or Zelda games will be added to the list. Games can be submitted on any console they have been released on, though, so continuing on with that example, if somebody really wants to put Mario 64 on the list, they could still submit it as the DS version of the game. Remasters can be considered, and games within collections can be considered, but collections themselves, like the Halo Master Chief Collection, cannot be submitted as a single title. Each panelist also has one veto that they can use when a game is submitted to keep it from the list. So if somebody thinks Breath of the Wild is the better Zelda game, they could veto Ocarina to keep the franchise available for their pick later down the line. There's also the opportunity to override vetoes, but we will dive into that more if and when a veto arises. So once we have all 20 games on our list, the show then shifts into ranking that top 20 list, 5 games at a time, and the number 1 game will be retired into our Hall of Fame and join the 2018 God of War from Season 1 as our sole Hall of Famer at the moment. And any Hall of Fame games are ineligible from future seasons. So my pick from the first season of God of War is not eligible for this season. Basically, don't want to have the same games rising to the top every time. So that's gonna do it for the way the show works. Kind of walked through the any questions that the cast might have had before we started recording, but I'll throw this out there one more time. Any final questions? Everybody good to go?
I'm ready.
Good.
Let's
All
do
right.
this.
So per a random number generator set at the set before we started recording, the order of operations this round is going to go Aaron, Xyger, Brandon, and Scott. So Aaron, go ahead and kick us off with your first pick.
Oh, first pick. So I've been looking at my list and deciding what I wanted to pull first. And I think I'm gonna hold my controversial statements for later. You know,
Okay.
I can't blow those at the first time. So I think I'm gonna go with Super Mario Galaxy 1 on the Wii.
Ah, okay. Super Mario Galaxy 1 on the Wii. In Season 1, we had Logan submitted its sequel, Super Mario Galaxy 2. So tell us why Super Mario Galaxy 1 for the Wii is kind of your pick, not only for the Wii, but for Mario as a whole. I think, you got a giant franchise there in Mario. And in Season 1 in particular, like Mario and Zelda, kind of some of the big juggernauts, we like held off a little bit before diving into those. But you're going right for the jugular with Mario right out the bat. So why Galaxy?
It is the best use of motion controls on the Wii, in my personal opinion, for any game that came out during its life cycle, and it has consistently amazing level design that's super unique. The music is fantastic. I think it is still your Princess Peach gets taken and you gotta go save her, but it's in space and you get a bunch of cool characters, and everything about it is just, in my opinion, the most charming Mario game that's come out, and it's consistently one of my favorites. So I had to rep it real good.
Yeah, no, great. Who around the panel else has played Mario? Is this one we've all dabbled with?
I have
love
not.
this game. Love this game.
I have played it, but I have not finished it.
And was that Brandon that has not?
That is correct.
Okay, so Brandon is the odd man out on this one. So anybody else want to chime in with Mario memories, or kind of put out the feelers on if Mario Galaxy is the best of the Mario Galaxies, or what other Mario games might be considered, or what other Wii games might be considered?
Scott, did you want to go first, or do you want me to go
Sure.
first?
I have a lot of memories tied to this game. I remember getting it for Christmas the year it came out and being absolutely in love with it. It was such a departure, and I think returned to, not necessarily grace, because I don't think Mario ever fell out of style, but Sunshine, I feel, rubbed some people the wrong way. But coming back with Galaxy was, from the visual kind of flair and style they went with to the individual planets and how they play with gravity, so much of what Galaxy did was new. It was fresh. It kind of had that hub world like Mario 64 had. Absolutely loved it. I'm one of those that finds the original Galaxy to be superior to Galaxy 2. Absolutely love Galaxy. I think out of all the Mario games, this one definitely deserves to take the spot. I love it in terms of a Wii pick. I think it's a really strong Wii pick as well. A Wii title I had been thinking of was Muramasa the Demon Blade, but
Ooh, a deep cut.
yeah, deep cut. But I think a lot of people, when they think Wii, they think Mario Galaxy. So I think this definitely has a strong place and a valid deserving of being on this list.
Yeah, I think our first season panel largely agreed with your sentiment of Mario Galaxy 1 being better than 2, but it did get submitted at a time, I think, where pretty much all the other vetoes were blown, and Logan was like, all right, I gotta jump on with this. Actually, I think I still had a veto at the time, but I didn't care enough about which Mario Galaxy made it onto the list to veto it. But everybody else was like, yeah, 1 was better than 2, but Logan managed to get 2 on the list last time around. So Xyger, what are your Mario Galaxy thoughts?
Okay, so again, clarification, I never finished the game. However,
Okay.
one thing I want to point out, Mario Galaxy was the first Mario game to introduce the best princess, aka Rosalina. I don't know why you didn't mention that.
That's true. I'm sorry.
She is the best princess by far. Princess Peach, Daisy, and Paulina? Yeah, no, forget all of them. Rosalina is the best one. It's also
Isn't
the
Paulina technically a mare?
Yeah, she's a mayor now.
She's a mare.
well, mayor, princess, they both are less important than real people. Anyway, point is though, Mario Galaxy was the first one to introduce actual story elements into a Mario game, because I don't know if you guys remember, Rosalina had her own storybook side thing that you can collect as you play through the game that showed her backstory, where she came from, how she's possibly Peach's daughter from the future.
Yeah, I always got confused by that relationship, but that's because I wasn't really looking to what the story was in a Mario game. I was just like, okay, I'm going to have some fun platforming around and jumping around, but I was like, she does look weirdly unique or identical to Peach, so I guess daughter from the future makes as much sense as anything else in those games.
I'm all about that parallel universe Peach idea myself.
There you go.
The only thing I have to say against Mario Galaxy, though, is you mentioned it's the best use of motion controls on the Wii. And while I believe Mario Galaxy had really great motion controls, I don't think it beats Wii Sports, which is the best Wii title. Let's be real.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You got Wii Baseball, Wii Bowling, Wii Tennis.
No. All right, you got me there.
I mean, that was the one that I'm sure my grandmother would recognize if I mentioned anything. But yeah, other notable Wii titles I would throw out there are going to be Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, but I know that one is much maligned for its its motion controls. And then like it's probably been overtaken by Ultimate at this time, but Super Smash Bros. Brawls was the gold standard for Smash for the longest time, right? Or am I?
No,
No,
great
it was
mod
Melee.
scene behind that too. Like the mod scene behind Brawl is magical.
Evo would say that Melee was better, but let's
Yeah.
talk the real Brawl was better.
Yeah, that's I guess yeah. As I'm thinking about, it, I'm like, oh wait, no, Melee's the one. Like the reason everybody wants to keep going back to the GameCube controller was because of Melee. So I guess that one probably stood out a little bit more. Yeah, it's like there are some other standouts I think of on the Wii of like I loved Super Paper Mario, but that's just because I love kind of the Paper Mario series and that style. And I remember putting way too much time and love into Zack and Wiki.
I love Zack and Wiki.
Quest for Barbaro's treasure. But yeah, for me and I think a lot of people, the Wii was probably like your Mario Galaxy console. So makes sense. I think it is a superb first pick. It does take maybe more iconic titles like just any of the 2D Super Marios out of the running. It takes out Mario 64. And it takes out probably the most recent installments of Mario Odyssey. Everybody like on board with that? Everybody good with those?
I have no qualms.
Cast aside.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I assume then we have nobody deciding to exercise their veto in this first pass out. So Aaron's selection of Super Mario Galaxy makes the list as our first selection. All right, so let's toss it over to you, Xyger. Anything you want to select here?
Oh man, I had a bunch of different things written down. I don't know what to pick first.
You in the panel like submission call that I put out there, you had the most alarming submission ideas. So
Okay,
I won't dive into any
word.
of those. I won't dive into any of those in case they end up actually coming up. But yeah, I joked around with the rest of that Nerdy Sites crew. I joke that you are basically bringing the Cameron Chaos energy for this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing whatever you have up your sleeve.
I want to save a few of those weirder picks till later because people cannot veto those consoles. But the first pick I'm going to do is Halo Reach, specifically the version on Xbox One through the Master Chief Collection.
Okay. Halo Reach as the Xbox One title. Okay. That is I don't have the Halo background, but it seems like that is one of the more controversial Halo games. So go ahead and tell us why Halo Reach instead of, maybe some of the more iconic of the original or Halo 2.
So, as you were just saying, Halo Reach was one of the more controversial picks. Halo Reach has the Wind Waker effect that Legend of Zelda has, where when Halo Reach launched, everyone hated it because it was not Master Chief. It was different. Who cared about what happened before Master Chief? But as time went on, people started to realize, like, hey, Halo Reach, actually a decent game. Not only is it a decent game, it is the best game in the Halo franchise. First off, I don't know how much everyone else knows about Halo, but as the series is, you play as Master Chief. You're like this lone wolf soldier. You're doing whatever needs to get done. But that's the thing. You are alone. You play as this one unbeatable tank that has to do everything on its own. Halo Reach was the opposite of that, where you play a super strong super soldier, whatnot, but you are a part of a team. It's the first game that, like, hey, you don't have to do this alone. You have a squad here to back you up. We are all ride or die together. And it was the first one that like took story into account more so than any of the previous games where you play Reach. Like, I don't know, everyone who plays through Halos 1 through 4 already knows the story of Reach. Reach is very much like the Rogue One to Star Wars, where everyone knows, oh, Reach is the thing that happened. It fell, it got wiped out, but Halo Reach, when the game came out, actually told that story. Everyone knew going into Halo Reach what was going to happen by the end of Reach, but experiencing it from like the ground level, watching what happens when the UNSC fails to the Covenant, all the cities that get wiped out, people dying, like as you play through the game, you keep struggling. Like at first you think you're winning, and then you slowly start to realize like, hey, we're losing this fight. we already lost this fight. How do we continue on from here? And it's just like this last glimpse of hope, trying to get everything set up for when Halo 1 eventually takes off, because Halo Reach, as far as the story standpoint goes, takes place 6 weeks before the events of Halo 1.
Yeah, that's one of the. I personally have not played Halo Reach, so my understanding, I've only ever played the first two Halo games, but my understanding from like the outsider perspective is that like a lot of people, because you knew the story of Reach going into the game, you knew it was that Rogue One kind of like unavoidable. Like you already know how this story is going to end, so it seems like that was maybe one of the turnoffs that a lot of people had was people were maybe too focused on the end destination instead of seeing what that journey looked like and what that pre-Master Chief kind of dynamic felt like. Very cool. Anybody else on the in the panel play this one?
Yes, I have.
All right, Brandon, let's throw to you. What are your thoughts on Halo Reach, and how does it stack up against some of the other Halos?
So I have kind of two different categories. I'd like to start with the one that was much further back in the past. I first played it on the Xbox 360. A fun personal fact about me is that I first tried the Halo series with 1 and 2, and I had only ever known about the Covenant, and when the Flood got introduced, I noped out of that because that was not my scene. And then I met my current best friend. I met him while I was in college, and he and another mutual friend of mine tried very hard to convince me to get back into Halo, and it was with Reach, because that game does not have any Flood in it. And so while I completely agree with what Xyger was saying about the story, I really do enjoy it quite a lot. It is the only Halo on my personal top 100 list, number 99 if anyone cares. It is the memories I have on the 360 version is not just that story, but the many late nights I had staying up in an Xbox Live party in the Forge world, just building random nonsense, playing game modes you can download, just having all kinds of just stupid fun. And then some nights it would just be we'd be focused on cooperative building stuff and just going out. And then some nights it was just kind of like a setting like Fortnite is for people, where people just show up to play it, but we'd use that as a means to talk while we mindlessly were doing whatever. So for the 360 version, that's what I think of when I think of Reach primarily. But because we are speaking about the Xbox One version, which ties into the second category, I immediately grabbed that because I have the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox One. I grabbed that when it came out about 2 months prior to our recording today. And I have already gone back through it for the second time, something I thought I'd never do again. I went through that entire campaign on Legendary, and for those who know Legendary and Halo campaigns, that's...
Oh my god.
Yeah, that cannot be fun if you're not careful. But I went through as much as I could, just a nice little revisit down memory lane, because I haven't really played it because, life happens and people kind of drift off and do their own things, live their lives, follow other pursuits. But it was a nice revisiting to go back, and personally speaking, it is my favorite of all of the Halo games. I'm not really too big on the series as of now, because I link it in my mind. Halo is a series I do with friends. Most friends have gone off and done whatever, so I am not really into Halo anymore. But for Reach specifically, it's my favorite. Absolutely love the story. Absolutely cherish the memories I have through Forge World. Not a big multiplayer person, so I can't really speak much about it. It's like every other multiplayer game to me. I play, I get beat badly, humiliated, like, nope, I'm done with this. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Halo Reach. I really like that game quite a lot, and I think it's an excellent pick, Xyger.
Great. Who else was it that has played and wanted to jump in?
I've played it, and this Reach is my favorite Halo.
Okay.
I told you, Windbreaker effect.
I suppose this isn't too surprising, just given like the people I like associate and connect with online. That like, I guess I don't really have the friends that are gonna be like super diehard into the like, no, Halo 2 multiplayer was the best multiplayer, and like I just don't have the central crux of, cause we ran into that with season 1 on a couple things where it was like, oh, I thought a lot more people hated this game, but nope, everybody on the panel loves it. So very cool. So yeah, go ahead, Scott.
No, specifically, the biggest thing that hit me with Reach was I love the multiplayer. I used to play it a bunch with my friends, but kind of similar to what Brandon mentioned. My group of friends, we don't really play online shooters much anymore, but I will always remember just how crazy and how impactful it felt like the very end of Reach was, when you're by yourself and it's a suicide mission kind of thing. I won't spoil it. I won't spoil specifically what happens in case people want to experience themselves. But what goes on, it's just nuts. And the imagery behind it and kind of everything that goes on just blew me away. I love the story because even though even with Halo 1 and Halo 2, what happens to Reach and that it falls and gets glassed, playing through those last few days of Reach was really, really good. And this was the last game Bungie did in the Halo franchise before they went off and started working on Destiny and Halo went to 343 and all of that. So they put their all into Reach, and I think it really shows. So, plus I just like being able to customize and play your own Spartan. It was freeing to not be Master Chief.
Very cool. Yeah, and as we're talking, I do think of the fact that like I knew how Crisis Core was going to end, but that did not stop me from loving like that game and how that game plays out and the end of Zack's tale either. So I can definitely understand and appreciate how, a good story with Halo Reach can suck you in and make you try and like fight against, fate that is coming. Anybody else want to weigh in on Halo Reach? Okay. So I imagine, sounds like people are good with Halo Reach being the Halo game. Any other notable Xbox One games we want to kind of give a little bit of piece to if it's not going to be making the trip further? I shouted out, I think, in Season 1, Sunset Overdrive is certainly my favorite Xbox One exclusive, but I can appreciate that other games will certainly take the mantle in its place. Any other Xbox One?
I will stand for Gears 5. I love that game. It was my runner-up to GOTY this last year. I'm a big diehard Gears fan in general, but that's my favorite Gears game since the first two. I think Gears 5 is an excellent game on the Xbox One in terms of exclusives.
Yeah. Fair. All right. Well, I assume once again, nobody's going to veto correct?
You are right.
Cool. All right, then Halo Reach added to the list as well, now on our top 20 greatest games of all time. All right, now I'm going to kick it over to you, Brandon. I know, Brandon, as you've already alluded to, you have like a full list of 100 like greatest games of all time that you're working off of. So hit us, Brandon. What are you submitting as your first game on that Ultimate Video Game List show?
Yep, and deleting along the way as everybody introduced it strikes off consoles and games, I should say. But for me, if anyone really knows me, they know this was coming when you announced I was going to be on this panel. I am going to be submitting my absolute favorite game of all time. It is a game I am extremely looking forward to in its remake, and that is Final Fantasy VII, and I am specifically choosing the PS1 version because while the best version to play the current original is the PS4, it is the height of folly to suggest the PS4 entry be that game, so I'm just sticking with the bare original PlayStation 1 version of Final Fantasy VII.
All right. Final Fantasy VII. We got the remake right around the corner here in a couple months, or at least for a chunk of that game. Very cool. I applaud your decision, much as I did on the on Season 1 with Final Fantasy VI, of like picking and choosing the console that you're going with and defending, because I did not want to throw it against SNES. So I can appreciate you wanting to leave PS4 iteration or other games out there for the PS4. So tell us why this should stand out as the like number one, as the PlayStation game, as well as why this is the Final Fantasy game to go with.
Okay, well, I'll just go in order and just stick with the PS1 portion of your criteria first. So for the PlayStation 1, when people think back about the PlayStation 1, Final Fantasy VII is just one of a few handful of titles people think about when they think of the system. Not just this game, but games like Metal Gear Solid, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, other things like that. So it is one of those that when you think of the game, the base game itself, it is synonymous with PlayStation, because that pops into your mind. Another reason why I think it deserves to be the PS1 entry over those other games, is the massive impact this singular game had over the others. And I recognize that the strongest case that could be made would be Metal Gear Solid, but I'd like to rely on the tried and true argument or point, as it were, that it is the game that introduced Western audiences and popularized the JRPG, not RPGs in general, but just specifically ones coming from Japan. I know Final Fantasy VII introduced me not only to JRPGs in general, but it is also the game that introduced me to the Final Fantasy franchise, and I'll kind of get to why I believe it's the best pick for the franchise in a moment. But for PS1, and it is... the best way I can put it in terms of the console is that it is probably one of the very few games, regardless of platform, that when you think of it, it is a gaming staple, and it is one of the things that PlayStation relies on in terms of the PS1 mindshare. So what I mean by that is whenever people think back to having a PS1, you hear people talk about YouTubers today, or maybe on the playground when you're growing up or what have you. It's, oh, if you have a PlayStation 1, you have to play this game. This is just all kinds of different, all kinds of just unbelievable, all the CGI and things like that. And so for PlayStation, that's why I think Final Fantasy VII should be, it's the PlayStation 1 specifically, should be the nominee. For Final Fantasy series in general, I know there's the tried and true adage of, the first Final Fantasy you play is most likely going to be your favorite because of whatever reasons. I love the series as a whole. There are other games I really enjoy, such as Final Fantasies 10, 12, 4, among others as well. Not as much as those handful, but for 7 specifically, not just for the entire franchise, but it has all of the other characteristics that I look for in a video game in general. The story, the characters, especially the music, the environments, gameplay systems, how you go about breaking the game in different ways if you want to, and just the whole total package 7 presents to people. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people can't get out of the base game. They can't get out of Midgar or what have you, and there's some story beats that are like a little wonky. I know a bit of, and behind the curtain here for other people who are listening to this now, we are recording the day after the Final Fantasy VII Remake's theme song trailer came out, and they just debuted what the Honeybee Inn is going to look like. And for Final Fantasy VII fans, you know what the Honeybee Inn is, but for those who don't, it is pretty much, for all intents and purposes, a brothel from the base game, and it's like crazy, weird, bizarre things like that, and that's just one example. But it is the game, as I alluded to earlier during the PS1 segment, it not only introduced people to JRPGs and the Final Fantasy franchise in general, not to disregard the SNES 2 and 3, which is 4 and 6 in Japan at the time, but it is the game that made it so popular that people would probably go and think and try and play those games back if they were not around or not alive during that point in time, or to give those games a try. And for just Final Fantasy in general, I put forth is this is the Final Fantasy game that's getting a remake. We look back over the 12 months ago, like 2 days ago from 1 year ago, so 1 year and 2 days, we had the release of Resident Evil 2 Remake, and that game is fantastic. We're getting Resident Evil 3 Remake here in a couple of months' time from recording. So of the Final Fantasy games, it is a real statement that Final Fantasy VII specifically, that's the game that's so popular, so beloved, that's the game that's going to get remade. And it looks phenomenal. I can't wait for it because Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time, and no other Final Fantasy game is getting that. I know I am sitting here with a staunch 6 supporter, so I recognize that, but it's just hard to explain to people who have not experienced it why it matters to so many people. I highly recommend, if nobody knows nobody knows the person or the channel, there's a YouTuber out there, his name is Maximilian Dude. I highly recommend that if you want to try and understand why it matters to so many people. He did a video kind of explaining this. It's about 12-15 minutes long, and it's been hard for me to really put words to my feelings about the game, but he does a fantastic job about why it matters. For someone who, like me, who was just getting into gaming really heavily in my teen years, and then when I discovered this game that, again, is a story that is not only about oneself, but being part of something bigger, a game that's a commentary about the climate and the environment, a game that's about finding something to fight for friendship, having a game that is so technically, in terms of combat specific, so technically diverse that I can just make characters fight certain ways and then another playthrough be different. It's completely customizable in that aspect. A huge world where I'm flabbergasted about how many parts this remake is going to get. A game that has a soundtrack that I have on my MP3, that I listen to individual songs every now and then, that I catch myself humming if I'm just mindlessly doing something. So Final Fantasy VII for the PS1 is probably the most impactful game for me. It is the Final Fantasy game that opened me up to a whole plethora of other opportunities in terms of not just the series, but other games as well. It's the game that I hold closest to my heart, and that is my pitch for why Final Fantasy VII for the PS1 should be on this list.
And a very eloquent and worthy pitch it is. Anybody else want to chime in with Final Fantasy VII? Any others that have played it or want to speak to it?
I've never heard of this game.
It's a small indie title.
What is the PS1?
Yeah.
It might be something worth going on your radar, Professor RPG.
Oh yeah, maybe. I mean, there's 7 of them, I guess. Do I have to play 1 through 6 before I play through 7?
Absolutely. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
That's a good question. I really want to know the answer to this.
Like, how deep is the lore are we going here? Because this, I mean,
as deep as you want.
There's 7 of them. That's an investment. But no, this is a fantastic game.
Yeah, and despite my preference for Final Fantasy VI, I've often kind of, I like Final Fantasy VII is in my overall ranking. It's like 4th, but it's still like I put basically the top 5 of my Final Fantasy games against like most other games out there. So I'm very much looking forward to the remake as well. I was very excited to get to play the demo of it at PAX West last year. I'm curious to see if they'll be around at PAX East this year with something new or just more of that to show off. But yeah, like Final Fantasy VII, I think, like you kind of touched on, Brandon, has a truly iconic and incredible soundtrack, and it was like the breakout game that really helped put PlayStation on the map. I don't think there's much in the way of really refuting that. It was the first game I played on the PlayStation before I ever owned one myself. I played it at a friend's house because I had been a Final Fantasy fan at the time, and remain so despite everything that has come since. But yeah, so in terms of kind of the other PlayStation games, does anybody want to try and like give some shout outs to some of those original PlayStation games that will be lost to the list if we move forward with Final Fantasy VII here?
Shout out to Symphony of the Night.
Yep, Castlevania Symphony of the Night was our PlayStation 1 selection in season 1. After Cameron vetoed Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, so I guess shout out to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 as well. Anything else? I think Brandon, you already touched on with like Metal Gear, certainly one of the iconic titles of that era. Resident Evil, the original, but again, a lot of these will still have chances elsewhere on this list, much like Final Fantasy VII itself would.
So a week ago,
go ahead, Xyger.
A week ago, when you told us that we were going to be on here, I started creating like a list of different games and what consoles they're going to be on. I'm looking through the list now to see what PS1 games I wrote down, and under PS1, I wrote "Who cares? I never owned a PS1." So,
oh, I love that game.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm too young to have played a PS1.
God, you're making me feel old.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just true.
This is my nightmare, Scott.
This
is what I deal with doing with this show.
I've played Final Fantasy VII because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and I understand that I'm also not going to be able to come on here and veto this for Final Fantasy 15. I get it. That being my favorite.
You certainly could.
Could.
It'd be a choice.
It'd be a wasted choice. Yeah, I don't
Final
have
Fantasy Type 0 though.
Final Fantasy Type 0 is also good. I stand by.
I was on another podcast recently, and one of the questions they asked was like, "What's the game you spent money on that you like regret the most?" And I said Type 0 because I've never actually played Type 0. I bought it only for the episode Duskai, like demo, and then I just never hopped into Type 0. So and I was
Type
like,
Zero
It's
is
good.
amazing, though.
It's good.
I've heard good things. I just never actually hopped into it. So maybe it's something I will
It's
still
also an easy
do down
platinum,
the
just
line.
saying.
Remember when they announced
good to know.
Type 1 that never actually amounted to anything? That was cool.
Yeah.
You remember
awesome.
Versus 13, aka Kingdom Hearts Remind?
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
It's
Sorry,
coming
Aaron.
back.
So you're a fan of Type 0 and
I'm a fan,
and
yeah.
15. Interesting.
I have Final Fantasy 15 is my favorite Final Fantasy, but we don't have to get into that right now. I've played 7. I get it. I'm totally with everybody. I've never finished it, so I'm kind of waiting for the remake to come out so I can really
Same.
put my, dive headfirst into it. But no, I just wanted to say that I've never played it. I don't even think I've seen a PlayStation 1. Like at
I've
somebody's
seen
house.
some.
I mean, maybe at a GameStop like 12 years ago or whatever, but no, I've never.
Oh, you young people.
I know, right? Damn
killing me.
millennials. I guess I'm a millennial
I've
too.
played a
but-
PS1, I just never owned it.
Yeah.
I've certainly never played a PlayStation 1.
They even came out with the PlayStation Classic that you guys can get for like $10 now because of how bad it tanked.
Yeah.
Yo, everyone should get one of those because that's the only way you can play Persona 1 on it, on modern consoles of any kind.
Oh, and what
Yeah.
a awesome, in air quotes, translation or localization that game has. Let me just tell you. Man, oh
All
man.
right.
I do want to give a shout out for my pick for PSX, and actually Final Fantasy was going to be Final Fantasy Tactics. That's a really good game.
Yeah.
But good choice.
Certainly
Seven's a good choice.
a stellar choice. And yeah, like I think I mentioned in season 1, like my PlayStation was very much like my Final Fantasy console. I had Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. I had the anthology, which was I think 4 and 5, and then Chronicles was 6, and Chrono Trigger, and Origins was 1 and 2, something like
Yeah.
that. I basically had almost every Final Fantasy and Tactics on the original PlayStation. Pretty much all of them except 3, because that didn't come out here until it was a DS game or yeah. So yeah, it was like that was my Final Fantasy console. So I can appreciate Final Fantasy 7 as the PS1 choice. So sounds excellent. So and certainly a worthy addition to the list here. So with that, I think we're gonna round out this first week's episode with Scott. Scott, hit us with your pick.
For me,
For round 1.
for my round 1 pick is going to be Diablo 2 on PC.
Oh,
Ooh. Taking PC out the gate.
Darn.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
All right,
Ooh.
let's make the case for Diablo 2 and the PC.
My thing with Diablo 2 is it's one of those games kind of similar to Final Fantasy 7 and how it brought the masses to the RPG genre. I think Diablo 2 kind of did the same for the action kind of dungeon crawling genre on PC. And just, I feel like the Diablo series itself, especially with Diablo 1, kind of created the genre, I feel. Where Diablo 2 really expanded it and showed what you could do with it. It's one of those games that even today you can pick up, play for a couple hours, be rewarded with level ups and cool loot and cool characters, and be able to put back down and then pick it back up a few months later or a couple years later. And that feeling of exploration and kind of experimentation with what kind of characters you want or what kind of character build you want to do will always be there. The mod community and stuff, there's a ton of different mods that completely rework the game and add new acts and new character classes, new skills, all sorts of stuff. And it's just one of those things like that even modern games are compared to this. Like, how does it stack up to Diablo 2? Like, every action RPG, whether it's Path of Exile, Diablo 3, Torchlight, Wolcen, stuff like that, it's all of them take aspects that Diablo 2 implemented and showed off and really invented and are paying homage to it. And it's just one of those games I can go back and play anytime and still have a blast. And whether I'm playing with friends or without friends, it's still a really, really fun experience. And there's with so many different ways to play, you can play it as many times as you want.
Yeah, I mean, like I certainly have fond Diablo 2 memories, and that is like going back because that was when I was like a PC player in like high school probably ish. But I probably admittedly myself probably put more time into Diablo 3 when it eventually came to like consoles and stuff, just because that these days is my preferred way of playing. So I guess one of the questions I would have for you is, what did Diablo 3 miss the boat on that makes it inferior to Diablo 2?
For me, it's all about the skill trees.
Okay.
In the stat, like, I really like Diablo 3, especially. I had the collector's editions on the PC for both the base version and then Reaper of Souls. I love it. I still go back and play that game as well. I haven't played any of the console versions of it, but I thought that it really took out a lot of the, I guess, it changed, I guess would be a better way to put it. It changed a lot of the experimentation and took out some of the more role-playing aspects that I really liked in Diablo 2, specifically the skill trees and how you invested points into, like, stat points, skill points. And that was one of the big things. As a big RPG person, I love being able to tweak my characters. If I wanted to just run a really heavy, like, super glass cannon sorceress, I can just put, in Diablo 2, I can put all my points just into magic and specialize and just keep advancing and making a single spell better. Whereas with Diablo 3, it's so much more gear focused, which lends itself into that randomness aspect, where if you really want to be like a fire wizard in Diablo 3, yes, you can customize your talents so it has fire aspects, but you can't really successfully be one unless you have very specific equipment that specifically allows you to do some things. And I like being able to invest actual points into stats and being able to specifically select what spells I learn and want to progress and make better in Diablo 2. That was lacking in Diablo 3.
Makes sense. Xyger, you mentioned Diablo 3 before we started recording, so I don't know if that was on your list, but what are your Diablo thoughts?
Okay, well, I did not mention Diablo 3. However, Diablo 3 was the only Diablo I did play a lot and really enjoy. So when you said Diablo 2, I was shocked because I'm late onto the Diablo franchise. I didn't start until the Ultimate Edition was already out on consoles. But, like, from my understanding as an outsider looking in, most people who enjoy the franchise prefer 3 over 1 or 2. So just hearing you explain why you thought 2 was better than 3 is like, okay, I can see a few of those arguments. However, I think I can't really speak against 2, but from my experiences with 3, I feel like it's a more polished product, and it has a lot more endgame content, especially considering how Blizzard is still supporting this game even today. I think season 23 is about to end and start season 24, or the number is high. And
yeah, certainly.
Yeah, they're still continuing to support that with new gear loadouts, new equipments.
But it sounds like what really appealed to Scott was just kind of a different level of customization, character customization. So, very cool.
Well, and to address specifically that's Diablo 3 still being supported, in the same regard, Blizzard is still supporting, at least with some patches, Diablo 2. Diablo 2 got patches last year, I want to say, with their ladder, and the community behind Diablo 2 has released... There's a huge mod DLC entire campaign that adds thousands of new items, a bunch of new actual enemy models and equipment and gameplay mechanics and things like that. So while Diablo 3 is very much still being... And even now I would say Diablo 3 is more in maintenance mode than active development. I mean, Diablo 4 we know is coming. But...
you can't forget Diablo Immortals, though. We all have phones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Well, there's
very-
still a mobile entry. Oh, this would take Diablo Immortal. That's true. But
Yeah.
um,
Okay, Aaron or Brandon, do you guys have anything to throw out there in terms of Diablo, and then we'll, I think, open it up to a wider conversation about other PC games.
Yeah, I mean, my only, I think I'm with Xyger. My only experience with Diablo is Diablo 3 that I've played a fair bit. But honestly, hearing Scott talk about Diablo 2 and the reasons he likes Diablo 2 makes me want to go play Diablo 2 a lot. Because I like the tweaking of characters and all of that little, like, minutia that you get in RPGs to really play the way I want. So maybe I'll go back.
Yep.
well, if you end up playing it, I will happily hop on and
Nice.
start a new character and play with you.
Diablo 2 is PC exclusive, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. And Brandon, anything from you on Diablo, on the Diablo front?
No, not just Diablo, but because it's been many, many, many years since I've played a game on PC, I can not only not comment articulately not only on just the Diablo franchise, but for pretty much any PC exclusive at all.
That's fair. So yeah, the obviously the PC pick in season 1 was my own of Portal 2. So that's one that obviously could still exist out there, as well as I think some of the other big, like, iconic PC franchises would be stuff like Half-Life, stuff like Civilization, The Sims, most of the Sim games. Any other shout-outs I'm not thinking of that people would want to give a little bit of love to before we kind of lock Diablo 2 in here? Or does anybody want to fight against Diablo 2 with another with a veto and some other potential games?
Just a quick shout out. Last night we actually started playing the best PC exclusive game, aka TurboTax.
Yeah.
I just want to give that game a shout out.
Yeah, that's fair.
In
I've played my 2019 version of it.
In all seriousness, even though I just said I didn't play for many years, I know this is my one opportunity in my entire lifetime to bring attention to a game I actually really enjoy that actually did make my top 100 list. There's a game out there that is called Heretic: Shadow of the Serpent Riders. It's kind of a Doom clone-ish. If anyone out there that is listening is interested at all in just even looking at screenshots of the game, I highly recommend it. That's a game from my past that I really love.
Cool. Aaron, what were you going to say?
I would like to fight Diablo 2.
Oh,
Not for
okay.
not for the Diablo series, but for PC.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to? I mean, we can. This is interesting. I didn't know if we'd have this in round 1 here. So you can certainly you can throw out your veto if you want, and that'll basically keep the slot open. I would point out though that, just given the order of operations, Scott could theoretically still put Diablo 2 back on the list before you will have a chance to submit. So it is the risk that you run here if Scott wants to take 2 picks of Diablo 2, or if ultimately you will be fine, or if your other choice is available on another system, you could certainly nominate it there. But I kind of will throw that out to you in terms of how you want to approach the situation.
It is on another system, but I don't think I can get it on the list on another system. So
Okay.
I'm gonna throw my veto down and do that.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
So
Not
What is the
anticipating
veto?
that.
I want to know why you're vetoing it.
Because I think there's a game that I love that is on PC that I think deserves to be on the list more.
all right, and if you, I'm not gonna like push you to kind of say what that is, because
will.
you know,
I'll do it. I don't
like,
care. I just
I
like
also
Scott,
will.
You certainly can, and if you want to like weigh in and kind of voice that, you can. But if you want to kind of keep it for like locked up, so in case somebody wants to like jump in and snipe it from you or something like that.
as long as it gets the recognition, if somebody can snipe it from me. I don't know. I just want Divinity Original Sin 2 is the best PC game I've ever played, and that should be. I want that on the list more than
The other
is-
platforms that's on is Switch, correct?
it's on.
Switch,
it's on
PS4, Xbox One.
We've already taken Xbox One, and I don't think I can win it on PS4 or Switch. So
Honestly,
Yeah.
that is fair.
So
That's
I think
that is that's fair. And I while Scott was kind of making his pitch for Diablo, I was looking through. It was PC Gamer's top PC game of all time. I had to go through like 12 different pages to find that because of how they have that article split out. But
Yeah.
that certainly jumps out. And I know that like the people I've talked to that have played Divinity Original Sin like will absolutely evangelize Divinity Original Sin. So we have a veto on the table, which means I put it to basically Brandon and Xyger here can, if they choose, they can save Diablo 2 for Scott, or they can override it, or in doing so override Aaron's veto here. Aaron would still lose the veto, so he wouldn't be able to veto any other games down the line, but Diablo 2 would stay on the list. Or you guys can go ahead and let the veto stand. Diablo 2 is not added to the list today, but as I pointed out, Scott has the third pick next week, so he could still add Diablo 2 back to the list if he wants to
And
do
no one
so.
could veto it at that point.
And
No one-
and
yeah.
well,
Well,
like
he couldn't.
you or Brandon could veto him still, Xyger. So
Or, better yet, I
but-
can just go in next week and snipe the PC pick. Just saying.
oh, that's true.
you could do that as well. So yeah, it's the arrangement of things here leaves Divinity's fate a little bit more precarious. But yeah, so I will throw it to Xyger and Brandon. Do you guys want to?
Do I get to?
I mean,
propose
yeah. If you want to make
a
your
defense,
yeah, if you want to make a defense, Scott, feel
I'll let him
free.
defend first.
I would just say that the main reason Diablo 2 should stay. I've heard fantastic things about Divinity Original Sin 2 as well. It's sitting sealed on my shelf. I want to get to it. It's one of those games I really want to play. But the thing is, Divinity is still on multiple platforms. So this wouldn't be the be-all, end-all. It couldn't be on a platform. Whereas Diablo 2 is literally only on PC. So this is the only place it could exist, which is why I think this is a equally fantastic and timeless game because it is still being played so much. And I would just say, I guess my main argument is there's still room for Divinity to make it on a list because it's so good. I can see it being a Switch title. I could see it being a PS4 pick. I could see that. Like, I wouldn't veto it on either of those platforms. Because it is such a strong game, but
Yeah, our Switch pick for season 1 ended up being Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice because it kind of fell in that same boat where I think all of us had played it on probably PlayStation, but we wanted to leave PlayStation open for other picks, or they'd already been kind of taken at the time. But like nobody had a huge, super strong defense for anything on the Switch, or the franchises that they might have argued for had already been knocked out by other stuff. So that's certainly that is certainly a possibility. It could come in. I imagine there's probably too many other contentious choices to earn it a spot on the PS4, but certainly not out of the realm of possibility. So
Question real quick. Did
yes.
Mario Galaxy being on the list knock out Smash Bros. As a franchise?
No, Smash Bros. Is distinct enough from the Mario franchise, given its like overabundance of everybody else in gaming, that it exists as its own beast.
All right, cool. Because that would be my Switch pick. This is hard.
Anything you want to weigh in on in the conversation, Brandon?
I
I know Brandon before we started recording basically announced that he wasn't planning on vetoing anybody's games, but now he's thrown into the mix of does he want to uphold or let the veto slide.
Yeah, and with that in mind, you can obviously tell I am not happy being in this position. but yeah, so
starting off episode 1 with a bang.
absolutely. So
Aaron did say he was going to test you.
yes, and I respect it immensely. So for the fairness of everyone sitting here, I want to make sure to clearly outline my thought process. Here's what I'm thinking. Initially, I do not want to shoot down Diablo 2 on the basis of just for keeping the PC open, because as I just indicated at the conclusion of his presentation, I have no comment about PC at all, so it really doesn't hurt or help me in any way to not only shoot down the veto but to uphold it as well. And as you clearly indicated earlier, Trevor, like I'm looking at the list of orders here that we have coming up for future episodes, like even if it were to come back to me, as clearly pointed out, Xyger has the pick before me if he wants to do PC. And as I just indicated in my lone PC shout out, I have no real basis to pick a PC game. So that's where I am currently sitting. But outside of that, I'm really going to place this above the head of Xyger here. If you want that PC pick, I will shoot down. I will uphold the veto. If you don't want that PC pick, Xyger, I am shooting it down.
See, the only game I have that I wanted to dominate on PC was Minecraft, but believe it or not, Minecraft is on literally everything. It's even on Ouya.
Yep. Oh, Xyger has some ideas for the Ouya. So.
Oh yeah, the Ouya pick is already on the server. I'm not putting Minecraft on Ouya.
All right, so Xyger, are you in favor of keeping Diablo 2 on the list? Yes or no?
It's really hard because I have not played either Diablo 2 or Divinity, but I'm going to say we're going to keep Diablo 2 on the list because I do believe Divinity is a good enough game that it could either be the Switch pick or the PS4 pick. Personally, I would see it more as the PS4 pick, but I can go either way.
Okay, and then Brandon, I throw it to you. Do you match Xyger's call to leave Diablo 2 on the list? If so, it stays. If not, the veto lands and Diablo 2 is held off the list for another day.
With what I just said, absolutely, because I have no real sway in the matter. So if Xyger's not taking the PC pick, then yes, I am voting to make sure Diablo 2 stays.
All right.
That's fair.
That's fair. Aaron's veto is overruled by the rest of the panel. It was a valiant attempt, but
I appreciate the attempt.
This is interesting because I threw it out there as like a yay democracy, even as democracy burns around us. But I didn't know if we'd ever actually get it get a veto overruled. So let alone did I think that it would happen in this first episode. But so that means Diablo 2 stays on the list as the PC selection. Aaron no longer has his veto, so he cannot jump in with a veto any other time in the future. So Xyger, Brandon, and Scott all have their vetoes remaining intact. So we walk out of episode 1 with 4 games and not like a risk of 3. Very, very exciting way to wrap up episode 1 here of season 2, guys. Thank you very much for that little fun bit. And we will see what happens with Divinity Original Sin 2 in the future.
Play both games. Diablo 2 and Divinity, they are worth your time.
Yes, that is certainly if the Switch and PS4 entries come and go, I will certainly give you time, Aaron, if you so choose to speak on your Divinity Original Sin love if it does not end up making it onto the list. But yeah, as with season 1, this is all tongue-in-cheek. We're coming up with the best 20 games of all time until we come up with another best 20 games of all time list. As it is, it's exciting to look at this list and see that none of these games were on our list last season. Mario Galaxy 1 being the closest because we did have its sequel on our season 1 list, but everything else is new. We had a different Final Fantasy, of course, the first time around, but Halo and Diablo both kind of making their franchise debuts here in Season 2. So just as a quick recap, that means our first picks, our first 4 games on our list: Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii, Halo Reach on the Xbox One, Final Fantasy VII for the original PlayStation, and Diablo 2 for the PC. Good episode, guys. Lots of fun. I look forward to seeing where we go from here. So that's going to do it for this first week of Season 2. So we're going to go around the table and kind of give everybody a chance to make their plugs and shout-outs and all that stuff. You can follow Scott at SolidSnake120120. Anything you want to shout out, Scott?
I don't know when this is going live. Is it pre or post?
So it'll be going live this coming Friday.
Okay, so if you are going to PAX East, I would highly recommend you stop by the Irrational Passions best and most annoying RPG tropes panel that we are having Friday at 4:30 in the Arachnid Theater, featuring you, Trevor, right?
Yes,
You're
yes.
going to be on there.
I will be on there as well, yes.
So be sure to stop over there as well. You can also find where you got a lot of good stuff. I'm just recording more and more episodes of the RPG University podcast I do, where each episode has a new guest and we talk about our love and fondest memories of a specific RPG. Another one that Mr. Trevor Starkey has been on, where he sang beautifully the opera scene from Final Fantasy VI.
He sang. I don't know if I would agree with beautifully, but
you're right. You serenaded the listeners. So be sure to check that out. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I've got all sorts of good stuff coming. So look forward to that. And yeah, that's about all I got to say.
very cool. You can follow Brandon at Games Gann. Anything you want to shout out, Brandon? I know you don't have anything necessarily directly to plug, but if you want to shout out any content you're enjoying these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a nobody and not affiliated with anyone, so that's fantastic. But yeah, I'm going to do twofold. One is I'm just going to echo the pitch that Scott just had for the Irrational Passions PAX panel. Again, I cannot stress enough, those are great people. Please go out and support them if you will be in Boston for the convention. It's something I wish I could attend, but sadly, due to situations, I'm not going to be there, but hopefully be there in spirit. So the best of luck and have fun, you guys, in regards to that panel. But other than that, to all other listeners, if this is the only That Nerdy Site content you're checking out, I highly, highly recommend to go take some time, look around. You know, That Nerdy Site, so that Want to Be Film Class, that Anime Pod. There's a lot of diverse, fun things that all fellow nerds out there are doing, and so I highly recommend to go find something that you're interested in, check it out. They really good, really like what they do, and it's a fun time, fun listen.
Very cool. Thank you, Brandon. You can follow Xyger at Xyger1337. Anything you want to shout out, Xyger?
You said this is going up Friday, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I should have a review over at myxboxme.com for Music Racer and possibly another game. I need to double check on that. I'm a new writer on that website started by MC Fixer. I normally just do news pieces as they happen throughout the week, so you might see a few things pop up throughout this week. Since ideally people will be listening to this on Friday or over the weekend, there might be a few cool stories up there, but if not, check out the review. That should be going live tomorrow as of recording, but should already be live as you are listening.
Very cool. Yeah, go check out everything that My Xbox and Me and Irrational Passions are doing, because My Xbox and Me in particular just launched not too long ago, so I welcome them to the fold, and IP is kind of like, you know, their old hat at this point. And then you can follow Aaron Moeller at Aaron_Moeller. Anything you want to shout out, Aaron?
Yeah, Scoot Gang Tweets, at Scoot Gang Tweets on Twitter is where me and my friends go to make a podcast where we talk about really nothing in particular, and it's not fun. And there will be a new video game show coming out very, very soon from us.
Very cool. And that Scoot Gang is, correct me if I'm wrong, the same Scoot Gang that originated at RTX this last year.
It's
correct?
me and
it's that group.
That Evan Jordan and a lot of people from RTX that all came together and made
Very
a cool YouTube channel website thing.
Nice. Well, very cool. Everybody go check that out and them out as well. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, and you can follow all of the latest from That Nerdy Site at That Nerdy Site or thatnerdysite.com. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just shout out kind of like Brandon did, a lot of our just general shows. I'm very excited to be back here with season 2 of this particular show. If you didn't and want to catch up on season 1, all of that is available as well. You can see or listen to myself, Frank, Logan, and Cameron from That Nerdy Site kind of rank our original top 20 list, even though I've already spoiled it with which one wins. But yeah, go check out all that stuff. Remember, you can always like, subscribe, rate, review, follow everywhere you can. And we will be back next week for round 2, kicking off with Xyger, God help us all, on next week's episode. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.